Thanks so much. All right, yeah, okay, no children at all, okay. Yeah, so last time I did this at the freshman talent show, I'm fairly sure I lost about half of my potential friends. So I'm just gonna start with a disclosure that I'm a really nice person, and some people can attest to that for me. And yeah. All right, so internships for the summer, really stressful. Every year it's kind of like homeless or I find a job. That's kind of the question which I have to deal with. And I think probably my least impressive internship is something the OCS told me I should refer to as an on-site business consultant. So what an on-site business consultant is, and this is what I did the summer after my freshman year, the summer before I went to one of the most prestigious universities in the world, I was a shoveler for my father's construction company. So an interesting thing about shoveling in modern day construction companies is they actually have machines which do that now. Like giant machines designed specifically to move a lot of dirt to different places. So what my job was, is I would stand there in the sun for about 8 hours a day digging. And I dig a pit about this high, which I was pretty proud of, and which I think contributed a lot. And I would do that every single day for the entire summer. And I felt like I was really contributing, really helping out. Even if it wasn't the coolest job in the world, at least I was doing something. Until one day, when I was digging my pit, and one of the cool kids who actually has a qualification for doing this job, drove by in their dump truck, and they filled in my pit, just completely collapsed it. So I dug myself out of the pit, and I went to my foreman, and I was really stressed out. I was like, okay, shit, I'm gonna have to stay here for the next 8 hours and redo the entire thing. So I go to him and I'm so sorry, my pit got filled in, it wasn't my fault. And what he tells me is, don't worry, it's fine. You don't have to dig it again. And that's when I quit my job. I'm not gonna spend 8 hours a day shoveling if it doesn't actually help anyone. So the result of that job was that I showed that I was actually so unqualified that the only way I could get a manual labor job was if my dad got it for me, and that I couldn't even finish the job. But I blame it on my parenting. My parents are pretty laissez-faire. For example, my mom, never giving me the sex talk, never talked to me about the birds and the bees. She has given it to my twin brother twice, but... So, the one thing she's told me about sex is that before I have sex with a girl, I should make sure she's okay with getting an abortion. And this is a little bit like if, before you go camping with somebody, you ask them, so, if we get stuck in the woods, who's gonna eat who first? And if you ask that to somebody before you go camping with them, you're not gonna go camping with very many people, even if it's prom night and they're a little bit drunk. But I think my parents really taught me by example. For example, the other day I walked in on my dad's computer, open to an order for 60 condoms from Amazon. And there's some things which are bad. It's kind of bad to know that your parents have sex, but I think a lot worse than that is finding out that your parents actually have way more sex than you do. This is literally a 50-year-old man with serious health problems who lives in a rural town of 200 people, and he has ordered more condoms than I, as a college student, have ever ordered in my life. But the cool thing about this was that these are Amazon, right? So Amazon apparently does sell condoms, and just like most of their products, they have reviews. So obviously, upon finding this out, I grabbed my dad's computer and spent the next couple hours looking at condom reviews on Amazon, because that's just, it's an important thing to do. So I found out the average condom review looks a little bit like this. These condoms were great. I really enjoyed them while having sex with a girl. I enjoyed having the sex with the girl. There was just one problem. The condom was a little bit too small for my penis. 5 stars. So apparently there's this group of people who are convinced that Amazon's about 10% selling stuff to people, and about 90% a hookup website. There's some girl who's browsing Amazon, and she's like, oh, Sports Liker 78 has a big penis? All right, let's track him down. Apparently that does exist. And the other problem, so the reason I think Amazon condom reviews aren't that trustworthy is because they're always going to be good reviews. Everyone's got good associations with whatever they use the condom for, right? So you never see negative reviews. There was even this one review. So this condom was pretty good. The only problem was that it broke while we were having sex. 3 stars. So that's a condom failing to do the one thing a condom is supposed to do. That is like the definition of a 1-star review for a condom. So I feel like there definitely had to be more to the condom review than they were telling us. So it was something like, this condom was pretty good, but it broke while we were having sex. But now I get $1,000 in child support every month. 3 stars. But the really depressing thing about the Amazon condom reviews, which I'm going to keep talking about for a little bit longer. The really depressing thing about the Amazon condom reviews is that usually when you're on the internet and you see something somebody wrote, you can pretend that that person's a social outcast, right? That because of their opinions, nobody is friends with them, you know, they're just like living reclusively in like their parents' basement, and that's fine. But with Amazon condom reviews, you know that everybody who wrote one of those reviews once had sex, including the guy who wrote his review in all caps, called the girl a slam piece, and misspelled erection. Somebody was like, the most intimate possible act I can have with another human being, I want to have with that guy. Which I think it just says something really depressing about just like the human condition. Speaking of depressing things about the human condition, so my parents divorced recently, which was a little bit upsetting, but I dealt with it pretty well, and I do like all the regular like divorced kid stuff. Like I split my time between their homes. I try not to like call home to my dad more often than my mom. And whichever woman my dad is with, I always call her mom. And for some reason my dad doesn't get too many second dates. But speaking of dating, so I signed up for OkCupid recently, which is an interesting website. And OkCupid used to have this great preference, right? Where you could check your racial preference for who you wanted to date. So like if you only wanted to date white people, you could check, I only want to date white people, and you'll only get matched with white people, and everybody will see that you only want to get matched with white people. So when you're browsing their profile, you're like, okay, I shouldn't like reach out to them. And they removed this for some reason, because apparently people were like upset about it. But personally, I wish they put it back in. Like, quite frankly, there's just some people who I don't feel comfortable dating, like racists. And then so the last thing I'd like to close with is something which I actually think everybody should know about as Quincy residents, for basically 2 reasons. So this past weekend, my roommates and I were walking around in our room, as one does, and one of the tiles fell off. So we were like walking, and we step up, and the tile comes off with our shoe. Which is weird. But then underneath the tile, there's like, you know, the usual stuff. There's like the floor underneath the tile. And there's also an infant sock. Like literally an infant sock underneath our tile. So at the end, so we didn't realize this. We didn't realize this was weird until the end of the night, like the morning after the party, when like like 3 or 4 of our tiles had come off, because apparently that's something which tiles do in Quincy House. And we were trying to figure out, how can we explain why there's like 4 tiles missing from our room? And then we realized, the first tile comes off and there's an infant sock under it. Where's the rest of the baby? So we're just like good Samaritans looking for the rest of this kid who apparently was killed underneath 316 in Quincy House. So yeah, I just thought you guys should all know about that, and just double check, maybe keep a note, like if any of the construction manufacturers like had a child who disappeared during the process, like keep an eye out. Alright, thanks so much guys.